I heard his voice, but he wasn't alone. The words struck me like thunder in a suddenly silent room. I was outside his door, heart pounding, breath shallow, hearing laughter. Not his alone, soft murmurs, a curiosity I shouldn't have had. Everything inside me froze, my hands against the wall, the cool paint seeping under my skin. I wanted to turn and run, yet I couldn't. Every instinct burned for me to stay, to listen. I've always believed distance sharpened desire. In the weeks before that night, I'd watched him from across the hall. The way he crinkled his brow when concentrating, the raw sincerity in his tone when he spoke to me. I thought I knew those edges of him, but in that moment, hearing another voice, I realized there were hidden chambers behind his laughter, secrets in his tone I hadn't discovered. My body unbidden tensed. My skin felt electric. Inside the light was low. I could imagine the warm glow of lamps, shadows dancing on his walls. I pictured the subtle curve of his jaw in semi-darkness, the way his hair split light when he moved. My mind painted scenes, footsteps, soft touch, perhaps a whisper, perhaps a name. Every sound came sharp. His breathing, hers, maybe a gasp. I could almost feel the low rumble of his chest, vibrations through the door. My heart betrayed me, quickened, to think of the nearness, the hidden nearness. There was desire in that moment, a wild, aching pull. I wanted to see him, touch him, claim the place beside him, until her voice slipped away and only mine remained. But there was also guilt, a bitter tension crawling over me. Because I knew what I was doing by standing there, listening. I knew I was about to cross a boundary I told myself I respected. His laughter drifted, soft, intimate, just a breath over the threshold. I strained to catch words. Names mixed with confessions, secrets, promises perhaps. I thought I recognized her laughter, light, musical, more confident than I'd ever been with him. And I realized I was jealous. More than I'd ever expected. Every part of me burned to wrench the door open, to demand truth, to inhale the closeness between them, to force his voice to betray what was hidden. And yet something held me back. Fear, shame, longing, uncertainty. I didn't want to know and I couldn't stop wanting. Then, his voice lowered, husky, the kind of tone he used only when he was furious or desire-soft, and I caught her reply. Promise me no one has to know. My blood froze. The last words were a key secret. I felt myself gasp. I had heard enough to want everything wrong and everything more. And then he said her name, my name. And I staggered back, realizing I wasn't the only one he used that name with. I stepped away from the door. The hallway seemed too bright, too loud. My heartbeat hammered in my ears. I thought of leaving, but my feet stayed. I thought of forgetting, but my mind replayed her voice. Inside me, something cracked, something fierce, something desperate. And then before I could decide what to do, before I could flee or knock, she said it. I think I love you. My blood stopped. After that confession, everything changed. I stumbled back down the hallway, my palms pressed to my knees, trying to make sense of what I heard. The name she used, my name, with such intimacy, it burned inside me. I felt hollow and furious, hollow and achingly alive. I retraced my steps to my apartment, each footstep heavier than the last. I could feel the evening air, damp with possibility or betrayal, pressing against my skin. I shut my door with trembling hands. Darkness swallowed the room and yet lit up every corner of me. I sat with my back against the door, knees drawn in, heartbeat a drum in my temples. Memories flooded. Him handing me coffee one rainy morning, his fingers brushing mine. The way laughter fell from him when I told a story. How his eyes lingered too long on the curve of my lips. All of it seemed so earnest, so exclusive until now. In the silence I thought she was nothing. A voice behind a door. A name used in a promise. But I also knew I needed her gone. Not literally, but in the story he told me, her presence must slip away. Because this wasn't the kind of betrayal I could ignore softly. It demanded confrontation. Sleep was impossible. I lay in bed, sheets tangled, imagining them together. The sound of her laughter, the warmth of her shoulder under his arm. I tried to remember when doubt seeped in. Maybe weeks ago, when his phone buzzed at odd hours, when he seemed distant, or when I caught an expression in his face like longing or remorse. I had excused many things. I had believed his excuses. I remembered a night only a few days before. We lay shoulder to shoulder, he tracing idle patterns on my arm, whispering things sweet. I had asked if he loved me, And he said yes, but I'd felt the hesitation in his throat. I dismissed it. Tonight I saw clarity. Yes, I had ignored little fractures in what I believed was whole. Desire mingled with rage. My body trembled. Not just with longing but with the wild pulse of betrayal. I wanted to turn it into something glowing again, or else destroy the memory of something that once felt sacred. Morning came cold. I dressed, pretending nothing had happened. I went to work, to meetings, attempting routine. But I saw him at lunch, seated at our usual cafe table, not with me, but alone. I wondered, had she left before I saw? Did she slip out while I listened? Or was I paranoid, imagining things? His phone lit up. Message from someone saved under a name I didn't recognize. Something primal stirred in me, hurt, jealousy, desire to know. And I did know it was from her. I saw the preview. I need you tonight, my breath caught. That evening, I lingered in the hallway outside his door again. I almost knocked. I almost demanded answers. Instead, I pressed my ear to the wood. Silence. I heard nothing but blood rushing in my ears. And then, just as I considered leaving, I heard her voice, soft, not quite ashamed, not quite bold. I can't stop thinking about him. My hand clenched at my side. I felt dizzy. He called me later that night. My phone lit up, his name. I froze. Part of me yearned to ignore it, pretend I hadn't overheard, that I wasn't shaking, but I answered. He didn't mention her at first. The effect was slow, a gentle tug like a wave pulling me beneath. He asked about my day, laughed at something small, sounded almost tender. I felt warmth at his familiar voice, relief mixed with dread. I found myself asking him about loyalty, trust, tactfully. He paused. I imagined his mind flickering. His responses were measured, vague, work, meetings, nothing of note. I pressed, because his hesitations were a lead I wanted to follow. Then I said, "Is there someone else?" The words trembled. The silence stretched. I heard him breathe, and for a moment I thought I heard another breath behind him. But he said, "No." His voice was firm. Did I believe him? Some tiny part of me did, starved for the certainty. But another, louder voice wouldn't let me lie to myself. The suspicion rattled in my bones. I asked if she was there now. He hesitated again. It was too long. I heard something like a soft fabric brushing or a chair shifting. He stuttered something about leaving for a bit. I asked for the truth. He said he was alone. My heart sank and also soared. Relief and betrayal tangled like thorns. Later, I drove through dimly lit streets, the windows steamed, my breath thick with tears and anger. I imagined him there, with her, my name on lips that weren't mine. I pictured the curve of her neck, the way she smiled. Heat shaped itself inside me. Not just shame or pain, but longing, even desire. Because I realized I wanted to be the one comforting him. The one he whispered secrets to. The one whose laughter comforted him. That night I couldn't sleep. Something in me shifted. I desired not only to reclaim what felt lost, but to truly know him, beyond illusions. If there was someone else, I wanted to understand how she had gotten there. How he had given something of himself I didn't even see. In the hours before dawn, I dreamt of standing between them, her and me. Her fingers brushing his arm as he smiled at something she said. Me pressing close, wanting to be the firmness at his back, the voice that calms him. In the dream, his eyes found me. I opened my mouth to say something, but woke before the words came. Morning light found me tired. My phone buzzed, text from him. "Can we talk?" My heart leapt. I replied yes. I told myself I would reclaim what was slipping through my fingers, but also brace for more pain. When I got to his apartment later, the door was slightly ajar. I wanted to slip inside, demand open confession. But instead I froze at the threshold, watching him standing by the window, light catching his silhouette. I saw nothing from where I stood, or maybe everything. And I realized how I feared what I might actually see. And then he turned, our eyes locked, and a third shadow shifted behind him, hers. He opened his mouth, words caught in his throat, hers by his side, not quite hidden, a presence I could no longer deny. The air between us crackled. My pulse hammered so loud in my ears I was sure he could hear it. Her gaze flicked to me, startled then steady. She was lovely, more confident than I had ever been, even. Her hair rolled over her shoulder. A light curl caught the window's glow. Her lips parted slightly, as if she had just spoken or was about to. They both froze. Desire and indignation warred inside me. I wanted to reach out and take him because I knew I should matter more. But also I wanted to step back and run. To deny what was happening, to convince myself misinterpretation. But I couldn't unhear, couldn't unfeel. The longing, the jealousy, the hurt, they were too real. He stepped toward me. I stood rooted. Words tumbled, half apologies, half excuses. He said something about care, about connection, about something I didn't fully follow. I wanted to ask, still me? But it came out differently. Do you love her? I did not want it answered. I wanted it to be false. Her voice was soft when she spoke for him. She said she understood if she was a mistake. My chest tightened. She was an intruder, but one I almost envied. She had what I feared I lost. Space beside him, unguarded laughter, that vulnerability I thought was mine. He shook his head, distance in his eyes, regret. He reached for me, but I stepped aside. My hands trembled. I felt the weight of his gaze, the tension in his arms. My skin felt raw, receptive. I longed for the warmth of his hand, but disgusted with myself for desiring it even now, with her there. They both rained apologies, her soft regret, him stammering explanations of how they met, of mistake, of mercy. I heard phrases, just once, didn't mean, confused. I saw her eyes glisten. I watched him wrestle between loyalty to me and something secret, urgent, pulling him toward her. Inside me, conflict twisted. I loved him. I wanted him. But I also wanted respect. I wanted him to choose. I thought I had him. I thought the promises were mine. And now I felt myself unraveling and reconstructing at once. Then, just when I thought the moment would shatter, her hand brushed his arm just enough. A whisper of touch. He looked at her, then at me. I saw desire in his eyes, her skin against his arm. And I felt it. Not only loss but ache. I closed my eyes against the sight. When I opened them, I asked quietly, "Do you want her instead of me?" He didn't answer. She stepped back. The silence pressed heavy. Then he said something like, "I need you to know I..." But before he could finish, she left. Door shut. My world spun. I saw in his eyes apology, desire, confusion. My own body shook. My skin damp, my throat raw. I stood there in that room between what was done and what was possible. And then he moved toward me, arms open, wanting reconciliation. I parted, heart pounding, longing for certainty. But with every step he took, I felt distance. Something unseen had shifted. He stopped. Faded. I couldn't tell if the space between us was his remorse or my unwillingness. He said, "I love you." And I believed him, then didn't. After she left, the echo of her presence lingered. The air in the apartment smelled like subtle perfume. Faint laughter, memories of proximity. I inhaled clouds of it, trying to absorb proof that it wasn't just my imagination. Yet every whisper, every shadow seemed to carry her. He stood before me in that soft lamplight, the weight of everything unsaid in his posture. His hands slightly trembling, his chest heaving, not with exertion but with effort. The effort to reclaim me. I wanted to collapse into him, to let him seal this broken moment with something tender. But I was wary. I had learned that desire and betrayal often dance dangerously close. I looked at him, searching his face. The tension in his jaw, the shaky steady in his breath. I felt how mudded our past was, not clean, not pure. And yet something in him glowed. I saw remorse, I saw longing, I saw something raw and human. Without a word, I reached towards him, fingertips grazing his arm. He flinched, fear, guilt, hope, all in that movement. I let the touch linger. His skin was warm. The hairs on my arms rose. My heart thundered as if trying to escape my chest. Our eyes locked. I saw reflection. In his gaze there was desire for redemption, for reconnection. In mine a question. I asked, why did it happen? Not for blame only, for confession. He closed his eyes, exhaled. He said she was someone he believed in, someone who made him feel seen in a way he thought I never did. I recoiled even as part of me understood, because his loneliness, his doubt had roots I had ignored. Anger flared. You used me while thinking of her. The words were sharp. His pain deeper. He said no. That even while thinking of her he was with me, physically, in promises, in laughter, but I felt like I was sharing pieces of him while she held others. I hated that I felt myself shrinking in that. I hated that some part of me still ached to choose him over my pride. He swept me into an embrace. I felt him tremble. I felt tears pooling behind my eyelids. I laid my head against his chest, pretending his heart would steady me. I pressed fingers into his side, seeking proof that he was here wholly. I wanted to believe. We stayed like that for hours. The night outside our windows deepened. Lights flickered. The world felt suspended between confession and reconciling. And in that dim room heat gathered, not just of skin but of raw emotion. Forgiveness, longing, fear. I sensed him tracing silent patterns on my back. Fingertips light, trailing, leaving a trail of longing. I breathed him in, the smell of his shirt, the light weight of his arms. But there was also guilt. Did I deserve this? Can trust return from something broken? I thought I should run. Instead, I leaned into the touch, letting tension soften, letting desire stir again. It's dangerous, the way forgiveness flirts with temptation. My body remembered every whisper, every inch of closeness we once treasured. I felt craving, not just for love but for truth, for intimacy that admitted all the dark corners. I wanted to be the one he chose when the night was silent and all masks removed. Then, as if sensing my internal war, he paused. He looked down at me, eyes glistening. He asked, "If I choose you, will you stay?" I felt everything hinge. Not just what he said, but how he said it. I opened my mouth, about to say yes, but another thought blocked it. What if choosing me means closing off parts of himself I barely saw? And then a sound behind us, light, tentative. Her name flickered in memory again. My skin stung. I froze. My heart lurched. Was she coming back? Or was it just my fear? He started toward me again, but I heard the door creak. Her return, unexpected, unwanted yet inevitable, turned the soft night into sharp edges. Footsteps in the corridor outside his door. My blood froze, every nerve alert. I felt him stiffen against me, listening. Then the doorknob rattled. I knew she was trying the lock, uncertain. The threshold gave. She slipped in without knocking, presence silent but charged. Her eyes met mine, surprise, perhaps guilt, perhaps something darker. And in that moment, all the tension between us became visible. He stepped forward, closing space, but I lifted a hand. Don't. The word came out quieter than I felt. She paused. I saw regret in her face, tension in her shoulders. She said, "I didn't mean to." But her voice broke. I would have fled, but something inside me held me in place. Jealousy? Pain. The fear that if I walked away now, I'd lose him forever. So I stayed. He stood between us, his palms open, caught between protectiveness toward me, compassion toward her. She moved closer and I saw she was trembling. I recognized that. Fear masked an apology. She reached for him, hesitated. He took her hand briefly, just a moment, and seemed torn. My heart hammered so loud I thought he must hear it. Silence stretched. I watched the way his eyes shifted between us. I saw longing when he looked at her, for connection, for understanding. And I saw regret when he looked at me, for trust broken, for heart bruised. I wanted to lash out, to hurl accusations, to make her go away. Yet part of me pitied her. Then she looked at me directly. Her eyes wet. She said, "I never wanted to hurt you." I wanted to answer back. "But you did." But the words caught in my throat. Because even in my pain, I wanted to believe she was sincere. He nodded slowly. He closed his eyes, took a breath. He said, "I need both of you to know who I am. All of me." And something in that line startled me, confession perhaps overmuch. I wondered if loving too was possible, or if loving you meant you might feel less. I took a step back, wincing. I didn't want her there. But seeing her sadness, seeing the way she mirrored my fear, it hurt. I wanted him to choose entirely. Yet the moral ambiguity twisted. Was I entirely in the right? Did I ignore his loneliness? Did I fail him in parts he needed so badly to be seen? He advanced gently. His hand hovered between us. He sought mine. I felt heat as our fingers brushed, electric. And at that contact, everything inside me split. Desire, ownership, jealousy, love. I closed my eyes, torn. The room felt small now, breath shallow, pulsing. My skin alive with the knowledge that things had already crossed lines. His promise to me, her plea, my questioning. None of this was clean. Then he traced my cheek, soft, lingering. "Please," he said. "Stay." My breath caught. I looked at him, then at her. Her tears glinted in the lamplight. I saw in her face what I also feared. Emptiness, longing, wanting someone who may never fully choose. I wanted to scream. I wanted to push them both away. But I only whispered, "I need to know you mean me when no one else is watching." He said, "That's what I want." But when she murmured something soft, broken, he glanced. And in that glance I saw distance again. After that moment, tension stayed in the air like a storm about to break. She left again, this time slower. I heard her footsteps fade down the corridor. I heard the door click softly behind her. Then silence, heavy, wet with what remained unsaid. He turned to me, eyes raw. I looked into them, trying to find the version of him I believed in, steady, certain, devoted. I wanted to demand proof. Not words, but small gestures. Honesty when phones buzz? Transparency when nights are needed? I wanted to be the one he calls, not second option but primary. Yet I feared that in demanding too much I would push him away. We stood there, breath still mingling. His hand found mine. I tasted tears behind my eyes, of hurt and relief intertwined. He stepped closer, closing distance, my stomach trembling with the pull. His breath warmed my neck. I felt heat spread through me. I didn't want to flee, I wanted this. I wanted to redefine what we were, rebuild from fracture to something new, something stronger. He kissed me, not aggressively, but with a desperation, speaking apology in the tilt of his lips. I closed my eyes. I let his hands draw me close. My body pressed against his shirt, feeling its pulse. I wanted to let go, to believe entirely. Yet fear held some threads. What if it happens again? What if someday she returns again, or someone else? I touched the line of his jaw, tracing scars, emotional ones I could sense. He sighed against my lips. The world outside vanished, leaving us suspended in this moment of craving, of return. I forgot everything but him. Warmth, breath, longing. I wanted to melt into him. Yet halfway in I pulled back, eyes open. I needed the truth. Not only his confession but his choice. He looked back. Eyes glistening, shoulders trembling. I said, "I want to trust you again." It came out a whisper and a plea. He nodded, heavy. Then he asked me softly, "Will you forgive me?" I wanted to answer yes, louder than I had ever said a thing before. But I hesitated because forgiveness is not erasure. It is a journey. Just then the phone buzzed, his. He picked it up, eyes widening at the name that flashed. He hid the screen. I saw a message preview. "I miss you." No time name. My throat clenched. He snapped the phone off of me. My heart sank. He set the phone down, silent. He said, "It's nothing." But I saw an unread message, new text. My gut told me, this isn't over. I looked at him, jealousy, fear, love, all raw. My mind screamed to stay, to fight for what we could be. But also to run. He came close again. His breath on my skin, fingers catching in my hair. I felt tears slide down my cheeks. Not just sadness but the permission to feel. He held me. Everything else changed. Yet part of me wondered, what if the text wasn't nothing? Then he whispered in my ear, "You're the one I choose." And I wanted to believe it. But in the next moment the phone buzzed again. His lips parted to respond, and I recoiled, broken and hopeful. That night the three of us met again. Only this time with words laid bare, emotions unmasked. She came back quietly. He invited her in. I sat on the sofa, stiff, watching them both. She looked at me, not with defiance but with apology. He stood between us, torn. I felt pain, yes, but also clarity. Because sometimes truth isn't what we feared. It's what finally sets us free. She said she loved him too in her quiet way, but she never wanted to deny what we had. I realized then that love isn't always tidy. It's jagged, conflicting. I saw her hands shake as she spoke. I saw his eyes fill with regret. I saw myself stronger than I believed. Because here I was, facing what I heard behind the door, and demanding more than silence. He reached for me. I stood. We faced each other. I told him that though I love him, I can't share him. That choices matter. That trust shattered by secret voices behind doors can't be mended by excuses alone. I realized love demands courage, his courage to choose, my courage to be chosen. He looked into my eyes, I saw so many things. Longing, shame, decision. He said softly, "I'm sorry." But then, I've chosen you. My breath hitched. His hands came to my face, gentle. He kissed me. Not retreating, not apologizing, owning every moment. I felt strength in that kiss. Not just desire but commitment. She stepped back, tears in her eyes, and nodded. Not bitterly, resigned. I saw her leave. Door shut. Silence. Then it was just him and me. I stood trembling. He held me close. I listened to his heartbeat. I let my tears come, of hurt, of relief, of wanting to be whole again. He whispered things I needed. His regrets, his dreams, his promise to be transparent. I let him in. I let the walls break. In the aftermath, we lay together, not rushing, holding each other. The sheets were cool. The lamps glow soft. His breath on my skin. I felt every inch of me alive with both fear and hope. Because after all the shadows, after the voices behind the door, we had something raw, truth. I realized that passion can survive betrayal, but only if care is fierce, vulnerability is embraced, and promises are kept in both silence and speech. I know the road ahead won't always be clean. Trust rebuilds slowly with stuttered steps. But in his arms I felt possibility. So this is my confession. I heard his voice, I heard another's. I doubted. I wanted to run. But I stayed. And he chose me. Thank you for letting me share this. If you're here, I imagine maybe you understand something of this ache, this complicated territory of love, of betrayal, of wanting both truth and passion. Have you ever faced something like this? What would you do? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you like this, subscribe for more of these confessions. Your stories light up this space. Maybe together we can heal.